Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and squirrels from around the world. I hope everybody's doing wonderful today. Hey, Rabbit, good to see you. Good to see you. I don't want to get my channel yeeted for that one. I didn't realize there was going to be music in that. Doggone it. That'll definitely get my channel demonetized, so I've got to be very careful. And it works, yes. Yes, so interesting story if you have time. So last night I was planning on streaming everything, and I had gamed earlier, and for some reason I'd gotten kicked off. Just the stream shut down, went to absolute garbage. And I just figured, well, computer issues, whatever, maybe the game was just overloading it. Didn't think twice about it. And then I logged in, had everything set up to do a stream, got on a little bit early, and everything was running as a lag. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. Hope everybody's doing good. So, hey, Suzanne. Good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, I got everything set up, ready to go, and I started streaming. Everything was running on a complete lag. And just viewing it, I could see it just looking absolutely awful. And so, I was thinking maybe it was just that I was running two multiple streams at the same time, kick that off, straight over to Rumble. That didn't clear it up. So I just shut down the stream. Sorry about that, everyone. So tonight, what I want to do is basically run the stream that I was running earlier. What ended up being the resolution is there was an issue with my internet service provider somewhere further on down the line. I found out after 4 hours of spending with customer no service, of course, and they told me that my modem was bad. That was their conclusion. And then this morning I had to be in a different county picking up some paperwork from a court to, be brought back so everybody could do what they needed to do. And I got a notification that my internet was completely offline. Everything was shut down. There was a service interruption. And then, of course, whenever I got home this afternoon, I jumped in, ran a speed test. I ran one last night. I was getting 0.3 meg upload. That's what I was uploading at. That's why it was all choppy. Hey, Watson, good to see you. Good to see you. So, long story short, I've got someone coming out tomorrow to actually run a better service out here, and I'm leaving my old ISP. I'm not going to play that where they tell me that my equipment needs to be replaced with no resolution to insight, and it's not the first time it's happened. Plus, they're telling me I'm hitting the max amount of data, which I shouldn't have any data caps on my service. But that's, that's the game they want to play. So bye-bye. See ya. That's how I handle those fools. So Anyhow, I can't show this one because it's got too much music in there that will get me deleted off of YouTube, and I don't want to do that. So what I do actually have is a little debate that was had between someone, and you'll understand where I'm going with this. And by the time I get done tonight, you'll understand where all of this is coming from. But like I said, there's a large group out there, and it is here. I'll just show it. What I was going to share here, and it's this massive anti-cult movement. It's also it's the anti-cult movement, abbreviated the ACM. It's also known as the counter cult movement. It's about various governmental and non-governmental organizations and individuals that seek to raise awareness of cults, undercover coercive practices used to attract and retain members, and help those who have become involved with harmful cult practices. One prominent group in this anti-cult movement, Christian counter-cult organizations, oppose new religious movements on theological grounds, categorizing them as cults, and distribute information to this effect through church networks and via printed literature. Now, this whole concept is basically talking about dividing them into four classes: secular counter-cult groups, Christian evangelical counter-cult groups, groups formed to counter a specific cult, and organizations that offer some form of exit counseling. So it's pretty in depth where they talk about this, and this is sort of the cult of the anti-cult, and we'll get into some of this a little bit more in depth. But this one particular one, this guy is an interesting character, and I thought it would be there we go. It would be good to show this particular one because it really does a lot to explain part of this little group. So I'll be pausing it throughout this, but yes, Watson's pretty awesome. He does really good claymation. You should check it out. So let me bring this up. We'll share this for you to see. So if you don't know who these two people are, this is a anti-cult deprogrammer, and he made himself really well known. That little clip of that movie I was going to show you was basically about him, and there was some interesting facts in there. I forgot there was music in it, but we'll get into this guy because he's quite interesting, and also about the Hare Krishnas, because this was him debating a Hare Krishna or a couple of Hare Krishnas. Excellent, Susan. Love the music. Oh yeah.
I'm Gene Greisman. Welcome to tonight's television special, In the Name of God, Part 3. Tonight's program deals with America's new religions, that is, new religions to the American scene, and efforts that are being made to counteract some of those activities. Our special guests include Mr. Ted Patrick, who is the best known practitioner of deprogramming, the individual who gave the name to the practice, and his associate, Sandra Sachs. Representing Hare Krishna, or the Society for Krishna Consciousness, we have as our special guests His Divine Grace, Hridyananda Das Goswami, and Balavanta. We're going to...
So these two guys are Hare Krishnas, and the gentleman over there, Mr. Ted Patrick, and his associate, I think it's Sauce. They're just associates. but they're all about deprogramming people. And you have to understand this is at the very end of the the New Age movement, that was happening in the 70s. I had a good friend that was a Krishna. That's awesome. So we'll see if this guy stands up to the challenge. Both of them. We'll hear both sides. Hear them out. See what they have to say.
To be using a modified debate format. And for the first segment of tonight's program, we're going to turn to the representatives from the Society for Krishna Consciousness and give them a few moments to express statements about their religion. Then following their statement, we'll turn to Mr. Patrick and Sandra Sachs, and we'll be talking about efforts that are being made to counteract certain practices which you disagree with. But first of all,
I like that name, Sandra Sachs. That's pretty cool. Tried to get you to join. Oh, well, I've never been a good joiner. I've also never been a good quitter. So horrible.
Let's begin by raising this question. I think that practically, if not all, perhaps all the religions on the American scene come to the person on the street and they say, we've got the answer. America's going to the dogs, but we've got the answer. And so here you come with supposedly an ancient religion from the East, and you say, don't listen to the others, we've got it. Now, tell me why we should believe you and not the others.
Well, that's a good question. Why should we believe that one religion has the answers and not the others? And that's always been the good question for any good start to this kind of rhetoric. What's this? Been targeted by several calls who mistook my polite attention to their spiels for someone gullible. That's nice. But my inbuilt stubbornness and independence kept me from getting caught up in any of them. Exactly. I know that feeling. And hello, everyone. Good to see you, Chris. Good to see you. Yeah, these are, and you'll see some of the older movies. I think even like Airplane. It would have been out about the same time that you would just poke fun at the Hare Krishnas. It's quite funny watching them get all bent out of shape and angry because they're supposed to be very peaceful. So it's fun.
I'd like to correct two things which you've just said. First of all, we are not competing with or trying to defeat other religions.
So that's a pretty good point there that he's made. They're not trying to defeat other religions. Well, let's see where he goes.
Secondly, what we are presenting is not supposedly a religion of the East. It is already documented both in American courts, in India, by all Indologists and scholars of America and Europe.
Oh, and just so you know, you may not be able to see it, but up here on his head, he actually has lines drawn. It's not a refraction of the light, and you'll notice it. Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely should.
What we are presenting is the most genuine form of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Of course, most Americans don't know what that is. Bhagavad Gita is the Bible of India. It was spoken 5,000 years ago on a great battlefield called Kurukshetra. That battlefield is still existing in India. And at that time, the Supreme Lord himself, Krishna means God, personally gave succinct instructions.
Well, and listen to what he said there, because it's very important. Krishna meets God personally. And it's the way that he words it that that detracts from what he's actually saying, because you have to pay attention to what he's actually saying, because it's very important.
Instructions to his friend and disciple Arjun, and for the last 5,000 years, virtually billions of people in India have worshipped the Bhagavad Gita as a literal word of God. So we are presenting that Bhagavad Gita for the first time in America in a
You were raised in the Catholic Church cult. Hit the like button. Hit the yes button too. Awesome. Oh, no judgment there, brother. That's all good. Good to see you, though.
a pure form, and we are getting very good results.
Oh yeah, but make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe, because sometimes I'll get subscriptions out. I don't know why. I actually made it up to 203 subs. Thank you everyone for doing that for me. That's humbling, really it is. I'm very thankful for every single one of you, and hopefully I win some more subs off of this, because it's been crazy. It's been crazy. But the my view on the churches, some call them cults, is they all will serve a purpose. If nothing else, to give some moral grounding, which is, I think, one of the most important things, is to have a basis for moral grounding. And to the extremes, it can be very cultish. I mean, that's what this one is all about. And it's about some of the parts of that can be very disturbing. It may be unsettling. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a belief or a faith, and just I like to question everything. So that's what this is all about, just questioning it. But back to this guy.
Gita as a literal word of God. So we are presenting that Bhagavad Gita for the first time in America in a pure form, and we are getting very good results.
But what relevance does this religion, which does have its origins or roots in the East, you'll accept that fact, what relevance does it have to Americans?
Religion is one, just like the law is one. Basically, the law is one. It may have different manifestations according to different time and different states may have some slight variation. But basically,
this man's nervous on camera. Very nervous.
There's a speed limit in every state. One state may vary somewhat from another, but the basic principle is the same. In England, keep to the left when you drive. In America, keep to the right. But basically, that you have to follow the law of the state is the same. So therefore, religion is the same.
The American people have to be serious enough and intelligent enough in this whole issue to actually find out what are the symptoms of spiritual purification, and to see who is becoming purified.
That's an interesting thought, to see who is becoming purified. And what does he mean by purified? Well, maybe he gets into it.
Just like, for example, how do we choose a doctor? If we are sick, we have certain symptoms of disease. We are coughing or sneezing, we have fever or a stomachache. By those symptoms, we ascertain that we are sick. When we go to a doctor, we take medicine and we try to see if we are developing again the symptoms of health, if our strength is returning, our appetite, our enthusiasm, and so on and so forth, if our fever is going down. So in the same way, when, as you said, America is going to the dogs, practically that means that our material fever is rising. We're becoming
more materialistic, so we shouldn't want material. What about that beautiful temple that they have in Pennsylvania? Baltimore, sorry. Beautiful temple in Baltimore. So we shouldn't want material things.
more and more addicted to these material things rather than becoming addicted to God. Now, so can I just finish?
Sure.
So if our process is bona fide, and again, any bona fide process is acceptable, ours are another one. But if our process is bona fide, that material fever has to come down. And if it doesn't come down, if in spite of our religious fervor, We remain addicted to material gratification.
That's a pretty little ring he's got there.
Our process is not bona fide. And not only our material fever should come down, but our attachment to God should be increasing.
You can tell he's heard this kind of talk before. We'll get into this guy in a little bit, though. He's an interesting character himself.
Our love for God.
You said you were having very good results. Where are you getting your members from, mainly?
We are not looking for cheap membership. We are actually trying to present something serious to the
We're not looking for cheap membership.
American people, and we request them to try to understand what are the real principles of religion. In other words, this cannot be simply confined to a particular sociological group or analyzed in that way. Whoever joined in the 60s, that's another thing. But the real point.
Whoever joined in the 60s, that's another thing. Best moral dude. But it's nice to know I can trust the content. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Suzanne. So yeah, his moral, his ideas on this are a little weird, but listen to what he says.
Point is that the American people have to seriously.
Oh, thanks, Rabbit. I appreciate that.
Try to understand what the principles of religion are and what the symptoms are of spiritual advancement. Just like we choose a doctor, we choose a lawyer, we choose a real estate broker by the practical results. So it's not a question of a sectarian team spirit, my team and your team, my religion and your religion. That's irrelevant. I'm Christian, you're Hindu or Muslim or Jewish or this or that. That is not actually spiritual, that's material. So we have to actually see how.
So get rid of all religions because that's just material. Okay. All right.
Our material fever is coming down and how our understanding of God is increasing.
I think that you would agree, maybe you won't, that young people often tend to be, what shall we say, gullible, more gullible than perhaps people who've been around a bit, and you're simply playing on, at least some people would say
You're
that.
also playing because in the material universities, you are dragging these young people into the universities with
Wow, he just got a little upset there, calling him gullible. Just ticked a Krishna off right there.
because in the material universities, you are dragging these young people into the universities with threat of economic pressure. If they don't go to the university, they'll be practically economically excommunicated.
Or maybe they go to college to actually gain knowledge. Might be. Good to see you there, Vicky D. Good to see you. You're not late. You're perfectly on time. You can always rewind a little bit and catch the very beginning of it. We're only about 6 minutes in, and then you just double speed it, and you're there. Well, 23 minutes in, but only 6 minutes into this, so it's good. Good to see you, Vicky.
And once they get in the university, you again, excuse me, not you personally. I was speaking rhetorically. But the material society is shoving into their brain so many ideas. There's no God. Everything is created by chemicals. For example, I was recently at Vanderbilt University, and I saw a compulsory textbook in a psychology course, which 15 years ago would have been considered the worst pornography available in America.
Okay. And a psychology book. Forced pornography. Okay.
Is a compulsory textbook for 17, 18-year-old people. So I think that it's obvious that a young person is the most susceptible to education. That's why people go to school when they're young. And I think that it's actually the material society, both in America and all around the world, which is misleading and cheating these gullible young people and dragging them down into a fruitless and frustrating life based on material sense gratification and giving them no understanding of God and no understanding of the actual purpose of life.
So, let me break that down for you. What he's saying is that knowledge is not good, that you're being crammed this kind of information, that if you want to advance your knowledge further, that is taking you further away from God. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. Could be. Maybe once you start finding out the truth, it becomes relevant to seeing how people like this might not be all on the up and up. But we haven't even heard the other side of the story with this guy yet.
Okay, now grant that we do take this gullible young person into a school and we give that, let's say, that person an engineering degree. And once they get that engineering degree from a bona fide school and they do their work, they go out and get a job and they can have a successful life, successful, i.e., they can earn a good living and can provide for themselves for the rest of their life. What can you do?
Just a minute. I would like to question that assumption as to.
No. Let's hear what the brain scientist here has to say. Well, you need to go to school to get an engineering degree or to be good at engineering? Well, not necessarily, but for people that might not understand complete reason why you might want to use a certain level of water in concrete, or how much sand you need to make glass, how to purify metals, to make steel, to weave, to build weaving machines. I guarantee you these robes weren't all hand woven, and I would say that more than likely that the glasses that this guy is wearing are technologically advanced by somebody that was some form of engineer that designed the lenses to refract for the eyes a certain way, so that way you would have good vision. But my favorite is back in the 80s. It wasn't uncommon to be in a little local bar and see someone playing acoustic guitar, singing through a microphone, talking about how bad and awful technology was while they're sipping lattes. So it wasn't uncommon to see that. But hey, technology is awful. Technology gave them a platform to actually spread their message, to be able to sit in these chairs comfortably, to have their message brought out on TV. Sounds horrible to me.
What is successful? Because this is exactly the main principle of our movement. First of all, that simply to maintain our bodies and neglect the soul is actually not the standard of a successful life.
No, he's not wrong there. So there is truth in what he's saying. Never let anybody tell you what to believe, always question. Yeah. Always. I am no fan of religion either, but faith in something or someone in spirituality is different. And keeping an open, questioning mind is so important. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite beliefs there. It's keeping it open-minded, keeping it real.
And the bodies are automatically being maintained by the laws of nature or by the grace of God. Even the animals are getting their food and so forth. So the food and so forth is coming anyway, but what about the soul that's within the body? If we live our lives and we have a nice home, we have a nice car, we have all the symptoms of social or economic success.
Have a nice car, be able to drink clean water, be able to bathe ourselves, and not live in abject poverty. I think that's wonderful. But I mean, I would love to see these guys, how well they do in places like Juarez, Mexico. I'm sure that they can get plenty of followers there. I'm just saying.
At the end of life, we have not actually revived our relationship with God. But what is the use of such a life?
We are not proposing that people not work, that they not become efficient or productive in material things. Obviously, any society requires intellectual or educational institutions. It requires administrative and political institutions, commercial institutions, as well as labor institutions. And we know that. In fact, these things are mentioned in the Vedas. But what we are saying is that along with the material occupational side of life, there must be a systematic program to teach people how to love God.
Nothing wrong with that. That's no different than any other religion teaches.
And if that program is not there,
he's not saying anything wrong in essence, but he's really missing the irony when he talks about a world without religion as a member of a religious following. I know. It is ironic on so many levels. It could be considered hypocritical. But that's why it becomes all that much more interesting, is seeing how hypocritical a religion can be. And you know, that right there is why, Watson, you're challenging your local preacher, is you have questions. You have questions, and you find the Bible or any religious doctrine will have things that don't make a whole lot of sense. There will be inconsistencies from point A to point B. I mean, we could give a perfect example of Adam and Eve having two children, a boy and another boy. One boy kills the other boy, well, as men, and then Cain leaves. He goes to another country and he knows his wife. All right, who in the hell? How could he have it? Who could be his wife in another continent, another place, another town, another village, if God only created Adam and Eve? Were they failed mistakes? There it is, the religion part. Yes. So that right there is a perfect example that that is a perfect example of where things don't quite mesh up. There's nothing wrong with those kind of things not meshing up. And I think one of the most valuable lessons that I learned was for somebody pulling me aside and saying, you're looking for the answers that there are no answers for, because God is with us. And however you choose to follow that path, is what's going to lead you down a road to redemption or a road of hardship. And, you know, life experiences is going to teach you some very important lessons, that when it boils down to it, does those inconsistencies change your faith? And if it does, then find the told the preacher the Bible means basic instruction before leaving the earth. Yeah, could be. Yeah, could be. But, you know, I won't preach to anybody. Probably will, but I'll try to keep it down, though. I'll try to keep it down a little bit.
then people, is that along with the material occupational side of life, there must be a systematic program to teach people how to love God. And if that program is not there, then people without God will simply become like animals, and among animals there will always be conflict, there will always be violence, there will always be frustration.
No, among animals, you know, you will always have prey and predators. You'll have a cycle of life that happens. That's why you know, these are so important, because I can do this. It's a very important thing. We're the only animals that can do this. So
I was just going to say that we've drawn our first spark of the evening, and it probably won't be the last. And at this point, I think we'll turn to Mr. Patrick, and I'd like to ask you how you got into what's called deprogramming. Well,
there it is. In case you don't know who Ted Patrick is, he is the one that coined and became the father of deprogramming.
I got into deprogramming through my own son. He was 14 years old. Now, if someone had told me 10 years ago that this could have happened in my family, I would have called them a lie. But it happened to the very one I would say it would be the last one it would happen to. All outdoor boy, nothing keep him in the house. And he was psychological kidnapped by a cult. And they only had him for 4 hours. But after that 4 hours, it was somebody I didn't even know. When he walked in the door, I thought he was on drugs. And
there's a possibility he was euphoric. Usually, and it's amazing that how a parent will notice a change in their son or daughter, their children. They'll notice it, and I'm sure all of you parents out there will attest to this, that you know when something's not right with your kid. If they're euphoric for some reason, you start asking, well, why is my kid all of a sudden seeming like they're high as a kite? Maybe he just found something that explained all those questions to him, and it's I don't know, some people call it the opening of the third eye. Any number of things that it could be, but he found something that answered those questions. And that's where a lot of cults jump in so quickly, religious groups jump in so quickly when they're young, because when they're young, they're looking for answers. If they can't find the answers and someone is able to give them the answers, they're hooked. They believe that this person is going to give them all the answers all the time. And it's not true. It's not true. And a lot of people will find that out. Had an aunt that got caught up in this stuff back in the 60s. They had to have her deprogrammed. Yes. Even deprogram is a good idea until it gets used by other cults. Example, the Scientologists. Yes.
he told me what happened. He talked to some people on the street. They asked him, did he believe in God? Did he have Christ in his heart? Did he know Christ died on the cross for his sins?
Wow. That sounds like just about any hard right religious group, that talks about, your independent fundamentalist, your Baptists, Pentecostals, all of the ones that tend to preach the fire and brimstone, that believe in the saving of souls. Yes, even that statement is ironic. So let's hear it again. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
When he walked in the door, I thought he was on drugs. And he told me what happened. He talked to some people on the street. They asked him, did he believe in God? Did he have Christ in his heart? Did he know Christ died on the cross for his sins? And he talked to them for about 4 hours, didn't know he was hooked. And after talking to them, he was lucky they didn't take him away. But he made it back to the hotel, and we have been everywhere looking for him. And when he came in, the first thing I noticed was his eyes, just like he was high for drugs. And that was the first thing I thought about. And he told me his story, what happened. Then anyone believed what he was saying. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. I didn't believe him. Then anyone in the room believed him. I didn't know I even had a problem for about 2 weeks when a lady came into my office and turned in a complaint that her son was last seen the same day they got my son. And when she told me her story, what happened to her son, they got him. And he disappeared from the face of the earth. For 5 days, she didn't know whether or not he was living or dead.
So just imagine, maybe they were the cult and someone was deprogramming them. Maybe.
And no one would help her. She called the police. The police, how old is your son? 19. He's not a missing person. He's a runaway. Everybody gave her that story. And then when she finally got the telephone call, Mom, I found God. I'm not coming home anymore. You all is of the devil. And the world is going to end within a year to 7 years. And if you're not in this family, you're going to burn in hell. And after...
Imagine that. No, I've never let a cult or ever been in one. Well, there you go. See? Yeah, make sure that you're hitting that thumbs up along with the poll. The poll is interesting. I wanted to have some fun with it. Oh, just trust me. Trust me.
Talking to her, I realized what happened to my son. What was wrong with my son? And I started an investigation into this matter. And I went into everything, interviewing people on tapes, witches, warlocks, you name it.
Witches, warlocks. Has anybody ever seen a witch or a warlock? Interesting.
I even went to New Orleans. Somebody that was 100-some years old that my mother kept me to when I was a child for my speech impediment, see. And this lady was still living, which she was supposed to have been a healer and a prophet and all of this, be able to heal people. And
So, prophet, being able to heal. She's over 100 years old, New Orleans. She brought me back, fixed my speech impediment. How much you want to bet he's wearing bell bottoms?
even went and talked to her. And I still wasn't satisfied. It was still unbelievable.
Man, you can't get no satisfaction. Can't get no satisfaction.
I had to go in to see for myself. And I went in to stay a week. I stayed 3 days and 4 nights. 3 nights and 4 nights and 3 days. And if I had stayed in a few more hours, I would never left. I was hooked. And I was so confused for the next 6 days. I left home one day at 7:30 in the morning, going to the office. I ended up 70 miles away, didn't know how I got there. I didn't even know where I were or how to get home.
Life sucks without GPS. Life really sucks without it.
And this is how powerful this technique is, a mind control.
You think that these groups have techniques of mind control that you feel are dangerous?
Yes, Hare Krishna is one of the main ones. And they use the same technique. It's no different from Guyana, Jim Jones. It's no different from Hitler. It's no different from any group in the world that uses this mind control.
Now,
Stop using mind control. Damn it. What's wrong with you? Mind control. We get into some of that later on. Not in this one. This is going to be a pretty interesting series because I've got so much more. It gets really good. This is just a portion of it.
jotted down a few notes. I'm very sympathetic to the experience which Mr. Patrick had. I will not disagree with him that there are many people at the present time in the Western world who are exploiting people in the name of religion. I don't disagree with him. I'm very sorry if he was a victim of some bad experience, but that was not our group.
What you're looking at, a mindless robot. For an example, the young man over there right now, he's just sitting over there chanting Hare Krishna, which is self-hypnosis.
Separate you from your family. Will convince you your family is lost unless they too join up. Will advise you to cut total contact with your family and friends. Sometimes they'll do that. Just depends. Not all cults will do that though, because it's much easier to keep people relax. No, Chris is good. But Chris does make a very, very valid point that there are cults that will separate you from your family, and basically tell you to cut them out. I mean, think about a Muslim religion, for example. They view other people as being infidels, and they don't want you to even be around them or near them. And if your family strays away from it, the repercussions can be immense. The bad things that can happen. But if you do something a little similar to, having your community shun other people away that don't buy into it, as some groups will do. If you're not part of their church or their religion, that you'll be shunned in their community. You just were looking for a place to stay, trying to build a home, build a family, but you'll see it in internet culture. If you say something that goes against the grain of what everybody else is saying, you could easily be shunned or shut out of a community. Not saying that it's bad. You, as a human being, you will tend to surround yourself with people that agree with you. Disagreement is allowed, but you'll have a core principle that you want to be around. And it's an act of self-preservation. For example, if I like taking cold showers in the nude at 4:00 in the morning, I would expect my wife would accept that. She would be fine with it, but I would want her to know what she was getting into in the first place, and maybe even join in. It might be fun. But if it was somebody that was like, no, I actually like taking a steam bath and fully clothed, and you would see that you're incompatible. Not saying that you would be incompatible in life in general, but why would you spend your entire life with somebody if you didn't share some of the same ideas and the same goals, the same philosophy? So it's I don't know. I'll stop rambling.
And he got his hand in the bead bag, and he just, ever since he been here, he been chanting Hare Krishna. Now this is his life's blood. He got to chant, and because if he doesn't chant or get away from the influence, he'll start thinking. And this is the reason he said no to chanting, because this prevent him from thinking. See, the only way you can control a person's mind, you got to destroy the person's free will and their ability to think. And then you got to make it impossible for this person to think throughout the rest of their life, other than what the leader tell them to do. And that's where it turns into auto-suggestion, which means self-hypnosis. In Hare Krishna case.
Oh, that's just wrong. Come on. This guy's pretty interesting. He's got a very good point. But is he on the right side of it? Well, we'll find out.
This is chanting. They chant almost 24 hours a day.
We're chanting names of God, and that's recommended in every scripture in the world, that God's name should always be chanted. I believe.
Don't see anything wrong with that. He doesn't like it, but I don't see anything wrong with that. if that's your thing.
Even the Christian scripture.
I mean, he does have a good point that this guy is pretty much putting himself into a hypnotic state constantly, and it's like OCD in a sense. One of my wife's friends has OCD where she has to touch a doorknob several times, or will check locks to make sure they're locked multiple times. Turn it, excessively washes her hands. It's a, it is, it's a comforting for them, just like this might be comforting for him to be able to have something that grounds him. That's the way she looks at it. And I mean, she's actually a pretty successful physician, but she's just OCD.
Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount said, use not meaningless repetition.
But the name of God is not meaningless. And the Lord's Prayer clearly states, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The name of God is holy.
Meaningless repetition would mean chanting something which is not God's name. Just like, for example, so many bogus people have come from India. They're selling mantras. They're simply exploiting people, teaching them to chant so many meaningless words. But we're teaching people to chant God's names. So,
good point. That was a pretty good point.
So I pick up on that point, selling mantras. Now, you do use mantras, do you not?
Oh, yes. Because the word mantra is a combination of two words.
But you don't sell them.
No, of course not. Everyone knows Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna is the mantra that we use.
Man in Sanskrit means mind, and tra means to deliver. So mantra is used to deliver the mind.
I got an NBC documentary that was taken by NBC. We treat our dogs better than they treat the babies. Anybody that have a dog, they feed them good food, dog food, and they feed them in a...
You caught that too, Chris? No, what? No, that's not what that means. Mantra. No, come on. That's... I love you, chat. You guys are awesome.
nice container, a plate that was made for the dogs. I know I do. And you take care of this dog. But in Krishna case, as you look at this film, you can't help from shedding tears where these babies have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, take a cold shower, and then start and chant for so many hours, and they eat off of the floor from a wax paper.
If someone is simply going to come here, Mr. Patrick, his own activities are quite reprehensible. He spends half his time in jail. And I don't want to go into his personal character.
He doesn't want to go into his personal character. Oh, but he does. He does go into his personal character. We do too. Cheers to your mantra. Because I just mantra upside your head. I can see him doing it too.
About how his violence, I know for a fact, he uses many reprehensible means, illegal means, violent means. I don't want to talk about that because I think the other groups are going to talk about it. As far as I know, I don't want to waste my time with that. As far as our children are concerned.
So you're wondering, well, what is that hell? Oh, they eat off wax paper off the floor. Hare Krishna babies. This is interesting.
They were recently tested in Los Angeles, and at the age of, let's say, between 6 and 8, their reading skill, reading with comprehension, and also writing is about 2 or 3 years ahead of the public schools. They do not get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
So basically homeschooled kids. Could be ripe for university someday.
They do live very simple lives. The NBC documentary was false propaganda. anyone who believes everything he sees on TV or in the news or reads in the newspaper is a first-class fool. But I'm saying anyone can come and visit our schools. Our children are very happy. They're very enthusiastic. I just saw one of our schools today here in Atlanta. The children are every morning and evening dancing and singing. They're ahead of the normal children as far as their intellectual skills.
Substantive question. How long do you keep the children in your schools? Do you ever let them go to public school?
But why should they go to public schools?
The answer is no.
Of course not. Because in public schools, they simply learn how to take drugs, how to engage in illicit sex, how to accept an atheistic conception of the creation.
Wow. Might be on the right track with the homeschooling. Well, yeah, if you're going to school and you're just learning to take drugs, have illicit sex, and have an atheist view of everything, hey, there you go. Sounds a little bit like, sounds a little libertarian there, doesn't it?
Of the world. Why should we send our children to the slaughterhouse of public schools? And again, I think
I wouldn't call them a slaughterhouse. I'd call them more institution, like prison. It's one time in prison camp. I was having illicit drugs with illicit sex while I was getting my GED. I cannot spell GED, but that's okay.
I think that, if I may at this time, I would like to attempt to bring this discussion to the real point. And that is that philosophically we have to understand what we are and what is the purpose of life. That has to be touched upon. According to Bhagavad Gita, which we are presenting, we are not material bodies. This material body is simply an outward dress. It is like a machine. It has been anatomically and biologically analyzed as such. And within this material body, there's an eternal soul.
Can't say I disagree with him there. Can you find anything wrong with him? These would probably agree. Maybe.
The proof given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that we are eternal, that we are passing through different bodies, is that all of us have experienced.
He really wants to get his body passed through.
Experienced that we have passed through, even in this life, many stages of reincarnation. For example.
So it's reincarnation. So we're just passing through a bunch of different bodies. This is just a shell of a skin that I'm currently in. Do you ever notice that people that tend to really have this hardcore feeling of reincarnation, it's always some sort of grandiose kind of thing. You never hear anybody saying, yeah, I was just a shoemaker that got snuffed out, really early on in life. I got cholera and died. It's always, I was a leader of a revolution in my local community, and I was hung from the trees until my feet could no longer be felt, and whenever I came to, I was in this body. It's never anything. It's never anything horrible. Like yeah, I was married. My wife threw an axe at me. It's never. I was just a 5-year-old child playing in a field of dandelions. Got stung by a bee and went into anaphylactic shock. It's never anything like completely mundane. It's always grandiose and glorious. I was created for life. Yes, exactly.
Example, all of us had babies' bodies, child body, adolescent body, adult body. It is a scientific fact that within 7 years' time, the cells within this body change. Our fingers, our
the cells change, but not everything.
Nails, our hair, skin, and so on and so on. In this way, in 7 years' time, there's a replacement of the elements of the body. That means the body we have now is not the body we had 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Well, yeah, of course, duh.
Still,
but your fingerprints will stay the same. So will your eye size. Two things that don't change. Eye size doesn't change. Unless it's like poked out or something. Then it might change. But yeah, like The diameter of your eye, same.
We are the same person. So this is a practical proof that although the material body is changing, I'm the same person. Just like, for example, if you have a child, you still recognize him as a child, either with a baby's body or with an adult body. Unless we establish at least what we are and what God is, then this discussion is more or less absurd to talk about what's good, what's bad, what's mind control, what's not mind control, unless we even establish what the purpose of life is, what we're trying to get to, what we are as persons. Then actually this discussion, there are so many thousands of television programs, I'm
not sure we can ever agree on that. Your statement.
But then let Mr. Patrick present a better idea of what the soul is than what we're presenting. Let's get to the real point.
All right. My soul concern is the breath I breathe. But what I'm concerned about
the breath I
is
breathe.
A group that bring in over $500 million a year, ripping people off. This money goes to a bunch of con artists. No, they are crooks.
I mean, I like to make this public challenge, that I am one of the leaders, one of the big con men, one of the big crooks. And I defy anyone to demonstrate through any means that I'm exploiting or taking things for my own sense gratification, or that he is or any of our leaders are. I mean, he's making statements about my personal life.
Oh.
Personally, all of my possessions I carry in one suitcase. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own a radio. I don't own a television set. I don't even have a bank account in my name.
So if he doesn't own a house, doesn't own a car, doesn't have a bank account, doesn't have a TV, how could he have seen this NBC documentary? It's an interesting thought. The interviewer was Ted Cruz. Yeah.
Name, and I'm one of the big leaders of our movement. So the point is, I come from a wealthy family. I had a scholarship to one of the most prestigious universities in America. I was an honor student there. I had an all opportunity to become very wealthy without entering this movement. I have not a penny in my own name, and I would like some specifics. Otherwise, I call upon you, Mr. Greisman, as a PhD, as a very respectable person, the chairman of the sociology department of Auburn, to please keep this program on a professional level. If Mr. Patrick wants to say that I'm a con man and a crook, let him introduce data, specific information about me personally.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you put things into a nice little trust account, you don't really have to worry about it. You can just tap into it anytime. It was before the internet, so I wonder if Arianda Das Goswami actually did have a good chunk of change.
I want to come to Sandra Sachs and ask you why it is that you got involved in the kind of work that you are now in. Tell your story, if you would.
My son, I have a son who is now 22 years old, living once again a very productive life. There were a few things before I go into that really bothered me that the gentlemen were talking about. I can't speak in the same rhetoric that they can, but I can certainly speak as a mother and someone who's seen a lot of suffering from this Krishna organization. Number one, in all of their talk about their philosophy, everything they say is negative. They say this body is not good, the world is no good, nothing is good. I mean, what are we here on earth for except to have the happiest, best life we can? And their philosophy is completely against that. They live a lifetime of dying. And that's what they teach, and that's what...
Spoken like a mother. Spoken like a mother. There you go. Tell them.
They preach. And it is all very extremely negative.
It's not all negative. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, which is the oldest scripture in the world, the sign of an educated man is that he can distinguish between that which is temporary and that which is eternal. So
the Bhagavad Gita is older than the Dead Sea Scrolls? Wow.
In Krishna consciousness, we frankly say that because this material body is temporary, it cannot give us ultimate happiness. But we don't leave it at that. It's not an impersonal, it's not a Buddhist, It's not a voidistic organization. We say there's an ocean of pleasure, there's an ocean of happiness, but that comes from the soul and not from this body.
There is actually
You suck at lurking. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, I suck at it too.
something very substantial to life, which goes beyond just the basic living condition in this particular life. We're not negative, although we see that this life has serious problems. We have to die. We have to grow old. We have to grow diseased. So this is not our natural ultimate life. There's a higher standard of life which exists on a spiritual platform with God. Actually, when this life is not all in all, when this life is finished, one has the opportunity, if he actually applies himself in this lifetime to understand God, to actually return to the spiritual world.
As far as the children are concerned in the schools, they said that these children tested out to be far ahead of the other children, but in what? Because the only thing that they are allowed to learn is Krishna.
In the Vedic literatures, when we say the Vedas, we're talking about the most vast body of knowledge in the history of the world, comprising many hundreds and thousands of books, dealing with everything from rocket science. There's one Vedic scripture called Vimana Shastra, how to build an airplane, that was used by the Germans. There are
I don't know if I'd want to be comparing my religion to the Germans, or considering my Bible being written by the Germans. Okay.
spiritual books. There are books about agriculture. There are books about military science. There's history. There's art. There's poetry. Sanskrit language is accepted. Sanskrit is a medium of all Vedic literature, and it is accepted universally by linguists as the most scientific and the most sophisticated language in the world.
Really? Sanskrit. Exactly. Oh. This is before binary.
So when we say that, so in conclusion, when we say our children are only studying about
Actually, it's about the same time as binary. Sorry.
Krishna, I don't think that's such a limiting concept.
Thank you. And I even restrained myself this time from interrupting. I had 2 or 3 very good questions, but I did not interrupt.
Please,
You can ask them.
Well, I wanted to give you a chance to develop your ideas. And so I'm going to turn to Ted and give you a chance to respond or to introduce some new material that you may wish. And I might say to our viewers that we're going to start taking phone calls. If you'd like to ask a question about any of the topics that are being discussed now or make a comment, we'll welcome your phone call.
They are a very good example of what I'm speaking about. What you're looking at now, just like he said, a very brilliant man. But they have reduced an adult down to a mindless robot, to a child, where they can't even speak beyond those books. If you talk anything other than the Bhagavad Gita, they cannot respond to it.
Please notice that this man does not give any data, does not give any statistics or evidence. He's simply throwing out wild charges and preventing us from actually talking about God.
All right, we're going to take our first phone call. Line 3, you're on the air.
You're on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. I have about 3 questions. The first is...
I don't know if we can take 3. We might take 1, all right?
Oh, real well, they're sort of connected. The first, what is done with the money they actually solicit from persons? And are any of the Hare Krishna gainfully employed other than on the street? I don't know if that's gainfully. And number 3, how do they live? Communes, hotels, reservations? How do they live?
All right. I think that we can, those could be briefly answered, all right?
Specifically, it goes to distribute religious scriptures, such as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We distribute literally millions of copies of literature every year. At least 50% of our income goes to the distribution of literature.
At least 50%. At least.
Can be documented. Secondly, the rest of the money goes principally for the construction of places of worship, temples, houses of worship.
Places, houses, temples of worship. How would you be able to do that without engineering?
Worship. And this costs money, but I mean, Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which is one of the great architectural achievements of the world, is a religious structure costing hundreds of years of labor of thousands and thousands of men. So this is the proper use of human labor.
Hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of laborers. Well, let's see. How long did you build the Cathedral of Notre Dame? Well, let's see. How long did it take? Constructed over the course of 2 centuries from the 12th to 14th, with modifications made in the 18th century and a major restoration project in the 19th century. So there you go. Not quite wrong.
Should be used for the glorification of God. So as far as our members and their activities, they are engaged in distributing these literatures on the streets. I mean, that activity is certainly as laudable as the activity of any encyclopedia salesman, say, or any book salesman. These books have been recognized and appreciated by scholars and universities all over the country and all over the world.
Question, what percentage of your people are gainfully employed? I know the answer to that question.
This is gainfully. First of all, that implies that the persons who are distributing these literatures are not gainfully employed. I don't think that the lack of God consciousness in the world is a wonderful thing. I don't think anyone in America, 93% of the people in America believe in God. That was a recent Gallup poll. But where is God to be found in our modern life? So I don't think it's at all ungainful that they are distributing religious principles to the mass of people. That's the first point.
Question, you said that it could be documented, the amount of money that was spent thus in. So I know many religious groups will not make public exactly how their money is spent.
If anyone wants to write to us, I'll gladly send them.
You will give a CPA certified account of how your money is
spent. They will write to us, we will send.
And so
but the fact is, I mean, even, of course, how many people actually write, but I can say right now that we're distributing millions of these books every year. You can see the cost of these books, the value of them. I mean, they've been appreciated, as I said before. They're in every college library in the United States.
Okay.
So these are going to the people. So even from a historical or a sociological point of view, is a great value.
Say one little point.
Okay, then we're going to take a
phone
call. Yes.
I'm sorry to
Sure.
butt in here, but then why, if that's what they're doing, why do they lie to the public when they're distributing the books by saying they're a Christian or a Krishna consciousness or something like this? They'll pin a flower on you at the airport. They'll ask for donation, and they'll say all kinds of things as to why they're collecting money.
It says the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
That's right. I will say for your group that you do say Krishna consciousness on your books.
They say Krishna on the book, but when they come
in the airport,
no,
we wear a name tag in the airport. It says who we are.
Themselves. Okay, I'm going to take another phone call. Yes, you're on the air. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right.
I'd like to commend Mr. Patrick on his excellent work, and that it is proven by psychiatry that with sleep and food deprivation and constant chanting that the mind snaps. It's just like Korean brainwashing. And there's a new book out called Snapping America's Personality Change, and I'd like Mr. Patrick to comment on snapping and say that it's obvious to me that these Krishna's minds have snapped, and I dare them to sit alone with Mr. Patrick for, maybe 4 or 5 days and let him try to deprogram them.
Oh, we'll get into Mr. Patrick here shortly. It gets interesting.
That's quite a challenge. I don't know if we'll take that latter point, but I wonder if you would comment on the book Snapping.
Yes, Snapping is one of the best books you can read because it goes into the science of this movement, or the cult movement, mind control, and what takes place in a person's mind when the mind snaps from consciousness to an unconscious state of mind.
I think that it's very unfortunate that in America people are, many people.
It could be. Could be. It could be his daddy.
Do not have enough common sense to actually study things on their own merit. We are not a cult. I've already explained, and this can be documented very easily. Any religious scholar in America will agree to it. They already have agreed to it and signed statements that we are presenting the oldest religion in the world. And therefore to say that it's simply snapping or thising or thating, and it's really quite foolish. The point is that there's food deprivation, sleep deprivation. I mean, all these things are very unfortunate, most lamentable, and without any basis or real intelligence. Anyone can come to our centers. You're not going to find a bunch of skinny Korean War victims. So, I mean, why don't we get to something serious? Why don't we have a program and actually talk about God, talk about things which can be of use to America? I don't know why these envious people are so much against us. There are many cults, I've already admitted it. There are many groups. They are not based in bona fide scriptures. They are actually exploiting people. But why should we be lumped in this way? Why don't we talk about something serious which can actually help people?
You're on the air. Can you hear me?
I would like to know.
Go right ahead. I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. I would like to know, why is it that Christians never refer to Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God?
Maybe ask a Christian of that one.
We always refer to God. Now, you can't separate God from his Son.
All right. Thank you very much. We're actually going to have to take a station break in just a moment, but I think that you could respond briefly to your attitude toward Christ and Christianity.
Neither can you separate the Father from the Son, so that both are one. The Son is the Son, the Father is the Father, but they're one in harmony. Sometimes God comes himself to give his eternal transcendental message, and sometimes he sends his sons or his representatives. The message is the same, however. Also, I'd like to make one point about the charge of our being mindless robots, unconscious, and we're the ones who want to discuss philosophy. We're the ones who want to discuss history, the significance of social structures, and the purpose of life and the meaning of life. This is hardly the discussion of mindless robots. However, on the other hand, our this evening's adversaries, they want to simply put forth baseless innuendos and charges without any substantiation. They want to simply make empty criticisms of us without any philosophical merit. So, I mean, I think if we actually were mindless robots, then we would want to be on their platform rather than be on the platform of intelligent, rational discussion, which is what we've come here for. Unfortunately, we're having a hard time acquiring it.
As you can see, we are dealing with vital, basic issues.
Yeah. So that guy. Oh boy. Well, Ted Patrick. And they alluded to this a little bit earlier. we'll just talk about this one because it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Oh, Mr. Ted Patrick, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Ted Patrick. Criminal and civil proceedings against Patrick have resulted in felony. In 1973, he was Ted Patrick was summoned to a New York City criminal court on assault charges for a botched attempt to deprogram someone from the New Testament Ministry Fellowship, part of the burgeoning Jesus movement. Fall alleged on 29th of 1973, walking into his apartment, that he was abducted by his parents and Patrick. In 1974, Patrick held Deanna Thomas Jones and Kathy Markins against their will with some of their acquaintances in Denver because they were believed to be controlled by a satanic group. Oh, in 1974. Oh, sorry. Again in 1974. So one was in May of 1974. In December, he was acquitted of kidnapping charges in Seattle, Washington. Who called herself Dedication Israel after joining the Love family and was brought to San Diego from Seattle. In January of 75, Wendy Hillander alleged that Patrick attempted to deprogram her from the Unification Church for 14 hours straight after her parents tricked her into coming to a house in northern Connecticut. 75, Patrick was convicted of holding Joanne Bradley, 19-year-old convert to the International Science Society for Krishna Consciousness, or ISKCON. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison in June 1976. Amazing. In 76, authorities charged Patrick with false imprisonment of Richard Allen Measy. In 78, Jessica Marks, member of the Church of Scientology, filed a lawsuit naming 13 defendants, including Patrick, on deprogramming incident in Portland, Oregon. Peter Rudy, a lawyer named on the defendant, claimed that Patrick was not part of the conversation that took place in 76. He was not in Portland at the time. In 78, Leslie Weiss pressed charge of assault and battery, false imprisonment. 79, abducted by his parents in a Cincinnati restaurant. And he was, it doesn't say what his charges were, or that he was in the community of his own free will, and ended the custody battle in 79. May of 79. They failed. Cane of Facts brought charges against them for which Patrick and Shoemaker were acquitted. The mother of Jeanette Kennefa were acquitted. Second-degree kidnapping charges in 1980. Patrick and others were charged with conspiracy, kidnapping, false imprisonment. Diane, the Church of Scientology, later sued Patrick for $30 million. In August 1980, Patrick was convicted of conspiracy. He was found guilty of violating probation. His relations to conviction in 1980 was sentenced to 3 years in prison. In 81, Patrick was on probation from his McElfish conviction in 1980. When the incident occurred, he tried to reprogram somebody else. He was sentenced to 38 days in jail in 1983. Goss. In 1983, he was found guilty of violating the civil rights of Richard Cooper. Patrick was unable to pay the damages immediately due to years of legal battles. In 1990, he attempted to deprogram Elma Miller, an Amish woman who had joined a liberal sect. He was hired by her husband to return her to him and the Amish church. Criminal charges of conspiracy were filed against Milner's husband, brothers, and 2 others, but were later dropped on result to the prosecuting attorney, who decided not to charge Patrick. Crazy, huh? So this is the kind of person that he was. Part of his life, the father of deprogramming. According to Ted Patrick, he was born in a red light district in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in which he was surrounded by thieves, prostitutes, murderers, and pimps. He dropped out of high school in the 10th grade to help support his family, worked a variety of jobs, and opened a nightclub. He then became co-chairman of the 19th Ward in Chattanooga. At the age of 25, he left his wife and infant son in Tennessee and went with a friend to San Diego, where he became an activist for the Black community. His efforts in the Watts riots in 1965, he was awarded the Freedom Foundation Award, which ultimately led to his job as Special Assistant for Community Affairs under the then Governor, Ronald Reagan. In his interview, well, let's see. Billy was 19. Police and the federal FBI would not look for him. Billy was not involved. This is about Miss Samuel Jackson that wanted her son brought out. He founded the Free Cog organization known as the Citizens Freedom Foundation 71 before merging into the Cult Awareness Network. Patrick stood trial several times on kidnapping charges related to his activities. After the first trial, which found him not guilty, he stopped executing the actual kidnapping but continued with his deprogramming. He testified before an ad hoc congressional committee organized in 1979 by Senator Bob Dole, according to the New Republic. Dole intended the hearing to provide a forum for Patrick and other anti-cult activists. In 1980, he was paid $2,700 to carry out the deprogramming of Susan Worth, a 35-year-old teacher living in San Francisco. He was hired by her parents, who objected to her involvement in leftist political activities. The process involved handcuffing her to a bed for 2 weeks and denying her food. She was later released, and after returning to San Francisco, spoke out against deprogramming, but declined to press legal charges against her parents or Patrick. Mia Donovan released the documentary Deprogrammed about Patrick in 2015. Donovan's stepbrother had previously been deprogrammed by Patrick. Yes, everybody has a story and a gimmick. And his story, which is quite interesting, got him in jail quite a few times. Now, there's a lot of people, and this goes back to that satanic panic, if you want to review one of my earlier streams, of how some of these people got involved in it. And you're looking at late 70s, early 80s, well into the 90s, that cults became something of a fashion statement. Everybody was jumping on the bandwagons, either to be against them or for them. Sound familiar? Same way with this trans movement that you see going on. There's people for it. There's people against it. There's a bunch of grifters on both sides of that issue. I mean, as a young man living in California, I had no idea what the hell a drag queen was. Transvestite, didn't understand. Once it was explained to me, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I guess a little weird and kooky, but okay, to each their own. And now it's become a mainstream thing where it's okay to be a little bit odd, or as some people would say, queer. Nothing wrong with that, I guess, as long as you're not forcing kids or subverting kids into this cult of this kind of perverse wackiness where they get to the point of lopping parts of their body off. It's not appropriate. What you want to do as an adult is your own thing. I don't have to agree with it, but I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I might stop you if you're trying to lob some little kids apart. I might have objection to that. But pissed with Chick-fil-A. I did see something about that. I'm going to have to pull up the link to that, because that was something I saw about Chick-fil-A. Well, let's see. I saw that came across one of my feeds. Let's see, Chick-fil-A. What was it? Woke, something like that. Chick-fil-A. Oh, there we go. So we'll bring this up. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Tons of movies about them in the late 70s, early 80s. It was a genuine issue that parents were scared about. Yes, there was. I've got some good ones here, but that's going to be a whole nother stream. Oh, it's crazy. I'll show you this here. I haven't seen this yet, so give me just a second. Let's see, share this, and all right, from the Daily Mail. Okay, allow. Chick-fil-A's woke pledge to embed diversity in everything we do resurfaces online, angering. So notice where it says resurfaces. So that means it was online before. Why does it have to do that? Online angering fans of the Christian-founded chain after Bud Light and Target's LGBTQLMNOPXYZ scandals. Some conservatives are calling for a boycott of Chick-fil-A after news the company has hired a vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it went viral. One Twitter user said, "Something tells me Chick-fil-A is going to be called to repent soon." That's funny. Chick-fil-A's DEI post surfaced after companies such as Bud Light and Target came under fire for controversial complaints. Some conservatives are calling for a boycott of Chick-fil-A after news the company had hired a vice president of diversity, equity, inclusion resurfaced and went viral. We'll just call them dicks. I'm not going to call them this long thing right here, this diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm just going to call them dicks. Dicks. America's favorite fast food chain, which has historically been praised by conservatives for its strong religious roots and values, is the next company to receive backlash for their efforts to be more inclusive. Chick-fil-A previously shared the announcement of Eric McReynolds as vice president of Dick's, who has been with the company since 2020. But the news suddenly resurfaced and spread online, sparking fear of the company has gone woke. That's going to be hilarious. I'll pull that up. Oh, yeah. Get that right there. Well, let's see. All right. Chick-fil-A had originally released a statement in 2021 to speak about its company mission to care for customers and employees alike. Now, what brought that kind of garbage on? If you don't remember, back in 2021, they didn't want to deal with all of the gay marriage debates and all that kind of crap. And they basically just said, yeah, whatever, we don't care. And they decided not to get embroiled in the debates. But instead, they decided to hire a bunch of dicks. And the reason they hired those dicks is because they wanted to basically have that kind of feel good, everybody's welcome kind of attitude. So it's nothing new. Been doing this for forever. I mean, I worked at a company that they would have these dicks come in and speak to us on a regular basis about, all their dickish stuff. And I just didn't want to get a little pissed, start messing with Christian values. No, not even. But they wanted to have their they wanted to have these people come in and speak to us to tell us, oh, well, these are things that you should not say in a workplace. These are inappropriate things. My response was always, you work in a shop with a bunch of mechanics. Do you think we really give two shits what anybody thinks about what we have to say to each other? Because we are assholes all the time to each other constantly. That's how mechanics are. Constantly playing pranks, constantly doing, shit to other people, constantly calling each other, some of the most vilest names that you can imagine. I won't repeat them all here. There might be children listening. It's not uncommon for mechanics to be real assholes to one another. Let's just put it that way. But then you bring in the dicks. And the dicks, they want to make sure that, you're inclusive to everybody. And our response always was, we are very inclusive. We make sure to insult every single fucking person. So there you go. Just so you know. Shizzy wants. Oh, yes, I got you. Don't be mad whenever people are messing with the Christian values. Christian values are not uncommon. I don't have a whole lot of belief in it, but I also don't have animosity towards someone that does have that kind of belief. We understand the path towards better at together looks different for every business. So here's the dick. This is the dick. This is the Chick-fil-A dick. Oh, let's see. Yeah. So this is their statement. Well, why don't we just open this up? Open that up in a new tab. Oh, that sucks. I don't have the whole thing. Oh, where is it? Where is the link? Maybe I can expand upon this here. Let's see. Open image in new tab. Nope, that ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna go through that yet. At Chick-fil-A Inc., our commitment is to approach this work with intention and humility, always believe in the best in one another and striving for common ground. Common ground. Well, why is it that common ground involves me submitting to somebody else? Why don't you come to my common ground? I don't know. Just a thought. We're early in our journey, but we're honored by the opportunity to steward our organization's greatest assets, our people, and are energized by the road ahead. McReynolds previously said Dick is necessary to fulfill the company's corporate goal. Chick-fil-A restaurants have long been recognized as a place where people know they will be treated well. Well, no. Chick-fil-A should be a place known for that's where I go and get a nice, delicious chicken sandwich and maybe a sweet tea or a lemonade or water and some waffle fries. Maybe some decent salad. I don't care. How about a place where I just go and get some food? I'm not really concerned about, your core beliefs. So your food's good, service is good, don't care. Modeling care for others in the restaurant. We are committed to ensuring mutual respect. Don't. How about this? Just give me my freaking burger. Give me my chicken sandwich. I'm happy. Understanding and dignity everywhere we do business. These tenets are good business practice and crucial to fulfilling our corporate purpose. How about just make food? That's pretty simple. These tenets. Chick-fil-A's Dick Initiative hopes to focus on promoting equal access to opportunities, valuing differences, creating a culture of belonging. I don't care if you belong or not. Make my damn sandwich. That's all I want. Just give me my chicken sandwich. Give me my waffle fries and leave me alone. I don't care. Don't care. The company, who said it supported various organizations, including Women in Business and the Black Employee Resource Group. So Wibs and Bergs. Wibberg. Put those two together. It doesn't look good. Conservatives took to Twitter to share their disapproval, with some believing Reynolds was a new hire for the company. One user said, "Something tells me Chick-fil-A is going to be called to repentance." Another said, "Hi, Chick-fil-A, at 100K plus lifetime points since app was launched. You've now lost my family after this ridiculous Marxist dick statement. Very sad, disappointed, and I know my $sign doesn't matter, but I guess it was just a matter of time before you allowed the communists to take over." It's all about the communists. Good to see you, Rabbit. You have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch up with you later. Oh, everything good must come to an end. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody giving a hard time to Chick-fil-A. Some of you, however, fired back against calling for a boycott. You're really going to boycott Chick-fil-A? When you start boycotting, every business is woke. The average American will think you're full of crap. Yep, the company has a dick page. It also has this, referencing the company's religious support. This is the first time the company has been accused of going woke. Fast food lovers were deeply divided once before over Chick-fil-A's launch of a new cauliflower sandwich, with some welcoming to the addition, while others reacted in horror. Chick-fil-A also faced years of protests and public backlash for supporting anti-gay causes. In 2019, it announced plans to stop supporting the Salvation Army, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and the Paul Anderson Youth Home, in addition to other groups criticized for their controversial stances on the gay issues. Instead, Chick-fil-A announced it would focus its efforts on 3 specific initiatives, with one charity company each: education, homelessness, and hunger. Chick-fil-A was involved in another controversy last year when the city of San Antonio, Texas, was sued over a policy preventing Chick-fil-A from opening in the city's airport due to what they called anti-gay behavior. The lawsuit was supported by Governor Greg Abbott, but the Texas Supreme Court ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove the city had violated previous religious freedoms laws. Despite its controversial politics, Chick-fil-A has been named America's favorite fast food restaurant chain for 8 years in a row, according to the latest results this week by the ACSI. Chick-fil-A's Dick posts resurfaced after companies such as Bud Light and Target came under fire. We all know what happened with that. It's unclear whether Chick-fil-A will be impacted in a similar way, especially since the fast food chain has been historically conservative and has devout Christians as founders. Well, there you go. Chick-fil-A seems to be doing just fine. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to say. But, so tomorrow night, it's going to be a good one. I will be doing another Federalist. So if you're up for that, join me in tomorrow. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out this poll, and let's see how this poll did here. And the poll, there we go. What do we have here? Have you ever been part of a cult? 55% of you said no. 22% said yes. 11% of you said no, but I could be convinced. And another 11% of you said only if it's a sex cult. Out of 18 of you wonderful people voting, thank you very much. So very much. I appreciate everybody. And I've got one that I'm really itching to do. Oh, it's going to be so good, but it's going to be a long series, and I don't want to cut it off in the middle of the series. Sounds wrong. I don't want to cut it short because I want to be out of country next month, so I don't want to cut that series short. Oh, it's superb. But as soon as I've got lots of juicy stuff on this one, so it'll be fun. And it's not the Scientology. Don't go like trying to get me like removed from the planet over that. But it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. If you find this kind of stuff as exciting as I do, hit that like button. Just give it a thumbs up and enjoy, because tomorrow I'll be doing the Federalist Papers. It'll be fun all on its own, a different aspect on things. See, this is what happens whenever you squirrel out all the time like I do. I'm just constantly, my mind is going a million different directions. But yeah, there's good stuff on the horizon coming up. While I'm out of country, I'm still debating whether I'm going to try to do the lives, because it's just a data issue that you run into. It might be easier for me to record and then upload them onto YouTube. That might be the easier thing to do. Just do them as like premieres. I hope that I can do some of them live, but I may just end up having to record them, save them, and then do like a live showing like later on. I'm sorry. It's just data starts costing quite a bit at a certain point, being in another country, unless I'm able to connect into a wireless network. It'll like, I won't be able to stream for very long because this just eats up so much bandwidth. So keep in mind, what I may do is just get like some of the best stuff and just share them as like photos or something. But I will definitely be doing some stuff while I'm out of country. And most definitely whenever I get back, I might just spend a good long like Sunday or something like that, just with a solid walkthrough of the whole trip. You know, maybe it'll be pictures, videos. I don't know, a combination of all. I want to give you guys a good story. I think it'll be pretty cool. But on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this here broadcast. And like I said, I appreciate you guys so much. You've gotten me up to, oh, geez, I'm trying to think here. If I look, you've got me up 203 subs in just a few months. And I mean, I looked at that and I was like, wow, that a couple hundred of you people have enjoyed the stuff that I've done and the content that I've put out. And I'm just goofing off most of the time. Oh, since I started boycotting all things woke, I've never saved so much money. Kids eating better. No Coke products, McDonald's, Subway, healthy, no more fast food. Thanks, woke companies. Oh, yes, it is glorious. But I do have, I do like I said, I've been very, very humbled by having so many people enjoy the stuff that I do and the content that I put out. And, you know, once I hit that 1K, ooh, that's gonna change a whole lot of things. And I think there's quite a few other creators that understand that, you know, it changes the content that you put out and the things that you do, and the way you handle some of these situations. So hope it's good. Hope it stays good. I'm enjoying it. That's most definite. It's fun as all get out to be able to get on here, chat with all of you folks that are just you make my evenings very enjoyable. And then just see you guys on other shows and hang out with you there in their chats and stuff like that. It's superb. But anyhow, all that to say, thank you guys so much for the 200 subs. And over there on Rumble, man, I'm sorry. I am so bad. I haven't even been looking over there to see what was going on. If you guys have been texting me over there, I have not seen a single thing. Guess I'll look. And I really want to do more of the Rumble stuff. I don't see a single chat over there, but I do have one person watching me now. Well, thank you over there on Rumble for watching me, and I hope you enjoyed it. And tomorrow will be the Federalist Papers. If you're subbed to me, you'll get a notification whenever it comes up. I usually try to set it up in the mornings whenever I'm like waking up in the morning. So it'll be good. Sorry, you had to get ready for work. Oh, that's all right, Chris. Completely understand. You enjoy yourself at work, well, as much as you can. And this one was an enjoyable one, and it goes dark. It goes really dark and deep, and I don't know. It might give you some insight into why I'm the kind of person that I am. I don't know. And with that, I think we're going to end this bad boy here. I didn't give you the fox screaming. I won't do that to you tonight. But enjoy your day tomorrow or today, depending on what part of the world you might be in. You might be starting out your day or ending your day, or just having a nice, wonderful, relaxing kickback in a couch and just watching me on your phone going, oh, God, what a hot guy. I'm just kidding. I love y'all. Have a wonderful one, and we will see you on the flip side. Peace.
Exótica.